It's authentic.
What
What
up? What
up,
up?
y'all? What up, what up,
You're
what up? Welcome back to Hear Us Out, the Music and Media Blueprint, brought to you by myself, River, and my girl, Lottie. And today we have a special guest with us, Khufu. What's the vibes?
The vibes are excellent right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful day here in Brooklyn, New York. Out here
that
living and
part.
loving
Ooh,
life.
we
That
love to
part.
hear it. We love to hear it. So, for y'all that are just now joining us on Hear Us Out, if this is your first time, welcome. If you're coming back, it's good to see you again. We're so excited to have you. As y'all know, season two, we've been focusing on these currency combos with some of our favorite creative entrepreneurs, artists, all of the things. So, we're excited to jump into this with Khufu. All right. So, Khufu, as we kick it off, let us know, how do you identify creatively and professionally in the world of music and media?
Oh, I like that. I like that. I identify by trade, I'm an artist manager. And so I'd say that 90% of the time that's there. Bigger picture, I like to say I'm a cultural investor. I think that I put my time and money and invest that into specifically the arts and the way that they affect the broader culture I'm a part of.
Amazing. Yeah, no, let's dive into that a little bit. So, like, what initially drew you into the music industry and also specifically into the field of artist management? Because I'm sure a lot of people have heard artist management is not for the weak, honey, especially the level that you do it.
Yeah, so this is basically the only thing I've ever done. And that's a little bit like hyperbolic, but I started managing when I was 15, and it was like homie managing with my homie in high school, and we did pretty well for some 16, 17-year-olds. Much to my parents' dismay, I'd like opted out of school, and I'm like, nah, we're going on tour, like we're doing the whole thing. I don't need college, I'll get the street knowledge. That definitely did not work out the way that actually no, it probably worked out just as they expected, but not as I was planning. But I think it was good for me. I got like a lot of hands-on knowledge, I'll say, in artist management. And at the end of the day, I always say like I'm into helping the magic makers make magic. And that first foray into artist management, I loved it. And so yeah, that's how I got into it, and it's such a passion for me that I couldn't really see myself doing much else. So everything I always do will involve me working with talent in one way or the other.
I'm it just it's the one liners for me. I'm into helping magic makers make magic, like vibes. We love it. We love it. So, talk to us a little bit. Okay, so 15-year-old you, this is what you know, this is what you're gonna do. You're lasered in, you're focused. Now, things, you've had the hurdles, stuff like that, right? Talk to us a little bit about like the trajectory from when you started. Like, if you could, like the key milestones or the pinpoints or like the turning points where you were like, okay, figuring this out, like that street intellect. Like, talk to us a little bit through that. Like, how did you evolve as you continue to grow?
Can I curse on this? Is that okay? Is it like
Absolutely.
Please do.
I'm just like a lot of fucking up. Um, Yeah, I would say there's a lot of information available online. And so it was really a lot of trial and error, where it was like, hey, this makes sense. I'm seeing things that make me think that this is the way to go. Why don't I explore more of that? And like, I don't know, what's like a specific example? So I realized I had kind of a knack for marketing when we had our first like merch drop. And in order to build this out, I don't know if y'all remember like OG Instagram when it had like the blue bar. And so contests weren't really a thing yet. And so we had this group called Pilot Posse, and the account maybe had like 80 followers. And then I ran a contest on the account, and we raised almost like $20,000 worth of pre-sales on items that we had, grew the account from 80 followers to over 3,000 in the first night. And I was just like, all right, I might have something here. And then manufacturing was a whole other kind of beast, and so we learned a lot. But it was really like a lot of instances like that. I think when me and the artist I was working with, when we moved out to California, we did a show in San Diego, and we're like, F it, let's just stay. Like, cool, like all the shows we drove across the country. We were stopping. I think we did. It was like, oh my gosh, how many shows? I gotta text Shamar and ask him. But we did a few shows coming from New York, ended out in San Diego, finally ended San Diego. We're like, F it, let's stay. We got this money. We had the merch go well, tour went good. And then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get an apartment. And I'm just like, cool, it's $2,000, 3 bedroom. Here's $2,000. They're like, all right, credit check, we need a lease. I'm like, what is credit? What is a lease? Maybe this is why they were saying I should have went to college. Like, okay, I get it. And then that was just me going online and like getting my bearings straight and my bearings set with that. So my management career has been a lot of instances of that kind of trial and error.
You know what's crazy? They don't even be teaching that in college.
Nah, they
So
don't. This
yeah,
that's
yeah,
life
wouldn't
lessons right
have
there.
learned that there.
That's life lessons.
That's
That's pure life lessons. That's you only learning that in life. Like,
also shout out to
And
the
you know,
cross country road trips.
I don't know if it's shout out to them, honestly. That's too long in the car. Like I think and we were stopping too. That's the thing. So I just got back from a road trip. I drove my grandmother down to see my mom for Mother's Day. And that was
fire.
like 10 hours. And yeah, no, I don't know. I'm not here for it. Like people
Yeah.
love road trips. Like I'm not jacking it. I don't think that yeah, no, let me not knock it because I feel like I'm gonna say something to offend some car people. I don't wanna knock the Hear Us Out audience early. If any of y'all love being in the car, shout out to y'all. You know what? It's just not for me. I'm a plane guy. And it's
I
like I
mean,
used
you
to have
know
my
how I
bu-
feel about cars, so
Yo.
I was trying to get Lottie to come out to this writing camp. She's like, you don't want to see me behind the wheel. And I'm like, all right, stay
and that
put.
was the end of
Stay put,
that.
mom. Yeah. Keep us all safe.
Yeah. So wait, this okay, so wait. This is like gems right here. So we're figuring it out. We've now cross country road tripped. We've actually successfully launched basically our first marketing campaign. It worked well. We now know this is the thing that we want to do. Like, we're making it happen. Stuff is falling in place. We're getting our own place. We're figuring things out. What do you feel like? What do you feel like are the essential skill sets or qualities that are necessary um, in management, specifically music management? Like, what have you learned?
That is a wonderful question. What is like our top required skill? I'd say patience more than anything. Like that's one of the biggest skills that I think a lot of people lack, even myself. Like I learned patience from working with my business partner Brandon, who runs the company. We make music, which is the management company that I'm at. Um, there's a lot of times when you feel like things have to happen right away, and we're in this kind of microwave content era where you see something get uploaded, and then the next day it's viral, and you're kind of like constantly chasing this immediate success, but it's like as fast as it comes is as quick as it goes. And what I've learned, so now I'm about to be 30 in a few months. So 14 years doing this, almost half of my life, where it's like the longevity doesn't come from those viral moments. Like longevity comes from a lot of small incremental steps forward. And again, back to like just staying patient and knowing that like you're on the right path, trusting your vision, trusting the people that you're working with, and just giving things time to develop, where it's like a lot of times you may have the right idea but it's the wrong moment, or it's just like the wrong execution, or there was a slight tweak that needed to be made to something, and people tend to just get really frustrated when you're not seeing that success. And I think that that's a testament even just to the way we work with the artists that we have, where everybody on our roster has been there since at least 2018. So it's not a huge roster, but the artists that we work with, we've had 6+ years locked in with them building out. And I think that's why you're able to see the level of success that we do.
If that's not a word in
No, it's
2024,
fact.
everyone wants one
The
TikTok
mic.
or
Mm-hmm.
one whatever to be like the biggest thing. Because you're right, especially, and it's funny because I'm sure you see all the conversations. People are like, artist development is dead. These A&Rs don't know what they're doing. These managers don't give a fuck. And it's like, or they still cooking. It's on,
Or
it's
you're
still
only
cooking.
focused on certain ones, and that's not the case
Right.
across the
And
board,
the other thing
right?
too, it's like when you see these artists come out of nowhere, you just
You
wasn't
feel like
hip.
it's overnight. You was
You just wasn't
exactly right. No,
doing
for
the thing.
real. They've been working at it. So I think one of the cool parts about what you just talked about, Kufu, too, of like that patience aspect is. So I worked in management as well for years, but not on the music side, on the TV, film, like producer, director, actor side, right? And one of the things that I think is super dope about what you just said is like this concept of patience being across the board, echoing what Lottie's talking about, where it's like sometimes it feels like to viewers, audiences, consumers that things are like an overnight success, right? But behind the scenes, team been grinding, artist has been grinding for a very long time. But it also, I think, in my personal experience, I can say one of the things that I learned over time was that like it was on me as a person on the artist team to also help cultivate and help encourage patience practices with my clients as well, because they want it too, right? They're like, when is it gonna be my moment? When is it gonna be? I didn't see my home. I was in this movie and it got nominated, but my role didn't really get any eyes on it. I was in this other thing, it didn't get nominated, it should have, and all of those different things. And it's also like, not only is the team responsible for having patience, but then it's also how do we help the artists to do the same thing and ensure them that, look, we on the right path, we're taking the right steps. It's not going to be like this other person you saw on TikTok. That's true, but that doesn't mean that you're behind either. Can you talk a little bit about some of those? And you talked about it for a second, but can you talk a little bit about the artist relations aspect too of like your management experience? Like, how do you help your artists to kind of just stay encouraged, stay in it?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
managing expectations, right? Like that's such a huge part of
Yeah.
your job. Like how do you go about that?
So, if patience is going to be like your number one skill, I would say your second is probably an ability to establish trust, where that is the biggest factor in keeping anyone like encouraged. Because if the artist doesn't trust what you're saying, then nothing you say is going to matter. You could tell them, "Oh, it'll be the next one," and it could be the most motivate. You could be the best motivational speaker in the world, but if they don't believe you, then it literally does not matter. So I would say finding a way to establish trust and like finding that baseline with the artist. Every human is different, so those relationships will be different, the way that you communicate them. So part of trust is like understanding who you're dealing with, understanding what their triggers are, understanding what are the things that are going to get them really excited or really down, and also like knowing how to protect that energy, where I think the internet can be a cesspool sometimes, and some artists navigate it better than others. And so it's knowing like, oh, okay, we're going to do something and we need to make sure once this is posted, you don't even have to see comments for a little bit. It's like we're going to literally post this and then go on about our day. Or, the time when you do see that, like, even you've talked about it, like, well, how do you feel? Does it matter to you? Okay, nah, then I always say you shouldn't get too high on the highs or too low on the lows. Because if you're looking in your comments and constantly looking for praise and being excited when people love it, then when it's the alternative and somebody doesn't rock with it, you'll let that kind of affect the way that you handle your artistry, and that can, I don't want to say it never works, but like that rarely has a positive effect. These fans are fans because of what the artist brings to the table, not because the artist was necessarily like living in the comment section and then doing everything some rando on the internet told him to do. So I think, that's an example of just one of the ways of building trust and kind of helping them deal with life socially, but then also dealing on the day to day, where it's like knowing families and knowing. It was funny. So I mentioned earlier, like Lottie in this writing camp, but one of the artists, we stopped at this cafe, and it's just like simple things like knowing dietary restrictions, which again, that sounds really basic, but it's just nice knowing like, hey, this person doesn't eat this certain thing over here. Never put that in front of them. Oh, you ordered for everyone? Okay, cool. Like they're taken care of. And it's like that little attention to detail, I think, is a good way to establish trust. And then that makes when I do need to like kind of encourage them because something may not be working. I also talk about that patience in the same way too, where it's like, look, if you get it quickly, this is all the reasons why that's good and all the reasons why it's not good. And they start to look at that and say, oh, okay, well, no, I'd actually rather have this kind of more methodical approach to it, and be able to sustain instead of, again, just having these moments that come and go, like the majority of these TikTok records are, where it's like you want to say, oh, that's the barometer for success. But then it's like, how often does that truly establish a star? And it's not very often at all.
Bars, bars, gems, all of that. I really love that point about attention to detail to small things because it's like, if you're someone who can remember something as, oh, like they can't have dairy in their coffee, it's like the biggest thing when the biggest things happen, like you said, that trust is already established on like a very minor scale. I love that because that's really where it starts. So Kufu, with what your job entails, right, with managing artists, it's you're identifying talent and also nurturing that talent to grow. You're handling negotiations, you're overseeing basically all the aspects of their career. What would you say are some of the most rewarding parts of your job, but also some of the biggest challenges you face? You can get as specific or general as you'd like.
Okay. Rewarding, I think, is probably like the most rewarding to me is the actual creative process. So making the records. I think getting an idea like from your brain out and then turning it into something that a group of people are vibing to in a studio is just like, again, like akin to magic for me. Whereas like, we had nothing and now there's something. And everyone here is being moved by this something. Like to me, again, that's just it's amazing, and it's what draws me to this side of the business so much. Like I've been on the engineering and production side as well, and I think that I have an extreme passion for that too. But my difference is, and why I respect artists so much, is I don't have the stomach to deal with like the business pressure of it. And so while it's super rewarding creating, I think the challenging piece then becomes, okay, now we've just made this thing and we like it, we love it, we're attached to it. There's like this emotional kind of commitment that's been made. It's like a little baby, you know? It's like we've now birthed the baby, but now we have to make this baby make money. It's like it was just born. Like I don't want to think about it having to make money. Like, can it live its life for a little bit? Can I go and just like bump it in the car? Just like take some drives with it. But no, it's like it's made. And then it's like, damn, well, who else conceived this baby? Because now I got to make sure that your percentage is correct. And we got to do that right when the baby's born, just in case, like, what if the baby is LeBron James, you know? And then we didn't talk about who conceived the baby, and then somebody's like, nah, I contributed 30% to LeBron. And we're like, nah, you contributed like 5%. So I think when you take something that's like as personal as a song, and then you start having to kind of transition it from a song to an asset, which is really what one of my gigs as a manager is like to keep the artist separate from that side. So while I can kind of share in that joy on the creation, I almost need to like not put a barrier up, but create just like some separation from the business side so that way it can be monetized and they can continue to grow their career with this thing that they just made. So I would say that that's like the rewarding and challenging part as a whole. Outside of that, um, I think it's really cool getting to talk to people and travel all the time. That's amazing. I talk a lot. I love it. I meet really cool people. They have really interesting stories, and there's a there's kind of a tongue-in-cheek energy about having to be like, oh man, gotta go to work. And it's because I'm going to like the Barclays for a concert. And I'm hanging out with some of the Apple Music people, watching SZA put on an amazing show. And it's like, late night at the office. And like not really. Like it's pretty great. In the same time, that can be challenging because there's not a set schedule. This is very much like a eat what you kill type of business. And so running around, and that almost becomes like a part of the gig, is you kind of have to be outside. You kind of have to know what's going on. Um, so yeah, I like it. There's like a nice duality with a lot of the stuff that we do, where I think from the outside looking in, it can seem really easy, which is why a lot of people will call themselves artists or call themselves managers. But then when it comes down to actually getting shit done, you start to see the the groups separate themselves.
Ooh, there's a lot said there. I kind of want to dive in a little bit on the splits situation or like taking care of the business, right? Because we've seen this stuff play out on social media. Someone was like, I wasn't credited on that song. This, this was sampled and this, that, and third. And next thing you know, it could be millions of dollars that's on the table or up in the air because someone made a mistake somewhere along the way. And even for like independent talent, right? It's like folks are kind of just like, oh, that's the homie. If the song goes somewhere, we can tap in and get that stuff taken care of. And it's like, oh, honey, like that might not even be your homie by the time that song goes, right? So, what kind of advice do you have for folks who don't necessarily have management, their early career, but they need to take care of their business like they do?
It's tough because like not to give a generic answer, but everyone really is different and the way people work is different. So I would say one, just understand the difference between like a master royalty and a publishing royalty. Understand the two sides of the song. So even if you don't have a manager, you can kind of say, well, this person contributed to this part of the record, so at least you understand roughly like, oh well, this is where you should be getting a percentage from. And the best advice really is to try to negotiate splits like right when the song right, I don't say before the song is done because it's hard to do that based off contributions, but like right when the song is finished before you leave the studio. But that almost never happens. So while it would be nice, I don't think that's like a real solution. Which I would say you just gotta work with people that you trust. Which again, that word is such a tough thing to actually have and establish. But that's the only real surefire way to do it if you're not signing split sheets when you go in, is saying like, okay, like I trust this person and we will have this set up. But even for people that you trust, you never know what can go wrong. You never know what can happen. You should try to establish those splits as soon as you possibly can. I won't say as soon as the record's done, because that can also be awkward. Back to like, okay, baby's born. Here, let me get your name and pen right here so we can see what's up. Like,
Well, the birth certificate,
yeah, it's just not
you
natural.
take care of that right when the baby comes.
Yeah, that's
So,
real. That's real. That's real. Name, yeah, that's a good
you
point.
know,
That's a good point.
the parents' names, they be on there. Like, okay, who the mama, who the
Yeah.
daddy? Great.
So, okay, so we really talked about a lot of your actual trajectory of like kind of how you have like grown and evolved as a manager. And then we talked about like what came along the way. How do you envision future of music management? Like, what does that look like? What are some of your goals? What are some of the things that maybe you haven't tapped into yet, but you're like, I want to kind of give this a try. Like, talk to us a little bit about like what's coming. What are we looking forward to?
So that's another. I love this here. I got great questions. Um, how do I see the future? AI is really interesting to me because part of part of the big like reveal for me as a manager was that I started working with quote unquote big names, and I realized that a lot of what I'm doing on the big name side is very similar to what I did when I was working with my homie that had a couple of Facebook fans. And the fact that this information really just is not accessible makes AI interesting to me because it becomes like, okay, if everybody has access to the same information, how does management change? Because a lot of management now is a lot of the personal stuff I've been talking about. But I would argue there's probably less managers handling the personal side the way that my team does, and more managers that are really adept at the business and just understanding how splits work, understanding how to do deals, understanding like the landscape with legal. And they're great at their job, right? Like, I'm not trying to knock those people, but a lot of that is information based. And so to me, I think management evolves, or the future of it will look like more people that cater to the personal side, people that really understand their artists, that have kind of grown with the artist, that have uh, a deeper investment in seeing the artist succeed, because we'll all know again whatever that baseline is. Like I know just put out one of their tools, and I don't know how effective it is, so I don't want to say this as an endorsement, but one of the things that I remember Brandon brought to me, and this was back in 2016, was like, yo, what we need is a hotline for our artists to just be able to text and ask questions. we don't mind fielding those questions. That's fine. But even for that, as an artist, there may be things that they may be embarrassed to admit that they don't know, or questions that they don't necessarily want to appear like, they're ignorant or unaware of. And so if you had a database, or again, like now I'm thinking of like AI, I was talking about 2016 at the time, that had all this information in it, and you could just text it and get the question as an artist, you almost have like your AI manager, or like a robot manager. I don't really seeing AI be able to replace us yet, but I also don't see AI as a threat for replacement at all. That's my own personal thing. Not that it won't be more capable, but it's just like I'm a person to person. I ain't worried about no robot, and I don't know. I'm just gonna find my people. Like I know during my lifetime I will not run out of people that care about people. Anyway, I'm off my tangent there, but
Nah,
because of that, it's
but
easy for me to
bars.
talk with AI.
No,
So
Yeah,
a
that's
couple of
key. Yeah.
really good points there. So first of all, I love what you said about, and I firmly agree as someone who's a creative and who's seen the conversations in real time about how creatives specifically feel about AI. AI ain't nothing to worry about, honey. I trust me, I've heard the BBL Drizzy, I get it, but like you said, that human to human interaction, as long as we got people's looking out, and you need that person to person connection. The music business, the media business is all relationship based. Ain't no technology in the world ever going to duplicate that. That's one. Two, not to plug, but I actually worked with a team that worked on an app that is basically exactly what you're talking about. It's called Roadie by IndieFlow, and essentially it's like an AI manager in your pocket. You could ask it different questions, whether it's about splits or even how to do social campaigns or whatever, and it'll give you, an AI generated answer based on, whatever consultants, including me, that worked on it. So these things exist, right? Because like you said, it's the relationship side is one thing, the business and knowledge side, that's another thing. And those things are both evolving, but in terms of like stuff like splits, master versus publishing, whatever, if you can find all that, in one place or whatnot, that helps. I don't want to say reduce the barrier to entry, but that makes it easier for people to focus more on the actual relationship building and artist development side than what percentage of this and that is supposed to go to a lawyer versus this versus that. So I really, really love that point. And I think when it
yeah,
comes to any of this tech, it's like, how can it actually help people who are doing the work, not replace people?
yeah. Not lie. I think you're 100% right there.
But with the artists that you're working with, has this conversation around technological advances come up, and like how have you kind of been able to curate or guide in those conversations? Like, has that become a topic of conversation with your artists, and like what are some of the concerns, or what are some of the I want to try this out? If you can share that, please feel free.
Yeah. I have a very show then tell approach, where it's like for AI, one of the things I did with Wild East Radio, a group that we manage, was I got their voice models made. And I didn't tell them what I was going to do with them. We were just working with Dauda and Aaron over from the Trinity team. And we're like, yo, we want to do voice models for the boys. I got voice models, and then I did like four different random projects, and then just let them hear these ideas and the ways that I was like thinking about using AI for their voices, and then explained how we could do it. And so instead of just saying like, oh, like AI is gonna make music, and not having anything to really show them or making it tangible for them, is like I took time to let them kind of experience it and have a hands-on way to see it. And I think it made them more open to the approach. Think like there's I still haven't found a real like killer use case for it. So I won't say there's anything that we have upcoming with it, but we're just, it's testing. And so I think that again, they were open to it because of that experience. Um, Mace from De La, he talks about the way that he used AI, and because I'm constantly bringing him new tech, when he started playing around with it, he like was sharing this idea, and I was like, oh shit, this makes a lot of sense. Where what he'll do is he'll listen to like AI, or he'll have an AI kind of cook up a record, and then instead of having to use that song, he listens for parts of that song that he likes. and then we'll use part of that as inspiration for a new record. So it's not really creating for him, but it gives him a limitless pool of a way to like describe something, or maybe he has an idea and instead of having to go crate digging for this thing, you might have 1,000 ideas that are like the one you were looking for, and you could just try to filter through. So I think it's a relationship of, because I'm constantly showing them and not really forcing it either. Like for me, it's always like I always see myself as the COO and the artists are their CEO, where it's like you're gonna make the executive decision at the end of the day, and I'm not attached to what I'm showing you. You know, it's like either you fuck with it or you don't. And if you fuck with it, cool, let's keep it rolling. If you don't, then straight. Um, I can. I'll show Ray Ban some love here because they took care of us, but like with the glasses and the meta glasses. And at first it was just like, wait, there's glasses in your, like, what? And then it was like, here, just look at them. Just try and wear them, see how you feel, see how it looks, see if there's any ideas. And Tyla ended up doing a couple of social campaigns for him. Delos tried him out and, played around with potentially doing some DJ sets. And so I think that showing them, having them like have a foundation to understand it, but then also it's that trust, right? Where like I'm not bringing them nonsense. And so I spent a lot of time in Web3 and crypto and exploring it. And I'd say 99 out of 100 things I came across in crypto, I never even mentioned to them as existing. And so that's another piece of how I deal with just the tech side of it, is like I act as a filter and then present them things that I think make the most sense or will have real tangible use in their life.
So good. So good. I love that because it's like, obviously there are many facets to being a manager, but it sounds like almost like your R&D, you know? It's like, okay, I'm gonna try these
Let
things, see
me
how they work.
Yeah, let me plug the team here. Shout out Brandon, shout out Tarinda. I think that like our trifecta that we have right now works really, really well. We're like Brandon, super savvy industry vet, and just like one of the smartest music minds I've ever dealt with. Um, Gives me the space to really like go crazy on the R&D side. And that so I head up business development at We Make Music. And so that really is R&D but for management. It's basically the same concept of like investing time, taking a lot of the conversations and calls that are on the bleeding edge to see like, okay, where can we really, really make some leaps forward with, or what can we rock, like the deep fake. Um, and I think I can tell the story. Hmm. You guys said we get approval, so it's fine. So if I can't tell it for whatever reason, I'll tell you to cut it. But with De La, we were working, and this is prior to what Kendrick ended up putting out with the Heart Part 5, where he did like the deep fakes. We were actually working on doing that for the guys, but doing their younger versions of themselves. And so it was like they were going to shoot all this new content as them, but we were going to like deep fake it. So it was young ones. We had actors come in and do like this whole thing. Um, and it just got, unfortunately with Dave's passing, it became like really uh, awkward content, like it didn't feel as like the story felt nastier basically after that. It's like, oh, now you're using AI to bring someone who's passed, and that where I think like, we just didn't like how that came across. But it was a really interesting project because this is years ago, and we're trying to figure out like, okay, like what's going on with this whole artificial video thing, and what are some cool use cases for that. And for De La, a legacy group, to want to embrace something so fresh and so new, it was just really cool. So again, little tangent there, but I just want to throw that in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And these are all different types of tech, between AI, blockchain, AR, VR. It's like, wow, it's like I love how creative you get with the use cases. And I think that's what's missing, right? Like with the overall conversation, it's like so much of it is just making bullshit, frankly. Things that have no use whatsoever. They don't make anyone money and they're not fun, they're not cool. So like why are we doing it? They don't add to culture. And then it's the other thing where it's like consent, right? It's like, does the artist want to be a part of this? Do they care? Like, do they know? Do they have enough knowledge of like the implications? And it sounds like you kind of cover all the bases to make sure that you're able to present something that makes sense, but also make sure that they're knowledgeable enough about it and also like okay with moving forward with it. And I think that's really that's the right way to do it. A lot of people are not checking off all those
100%.
boxes.
They're not checking off all those boxes, and then they're also, to your point, not really paying enough attention to, and I think it's just foresight too, like just paying enough attention to, okay, realistically this thing, it does seem cool, but like how is this going to work on the long term? I think people make short-term decisions for long-term, that have like short-term decisions or short-term experiences, and just trying to experiment with things that maybe have long-term ramifications, right? Like, and all of this stuff that's happening in emerging tech, whether we agree with it or not, is we're writing history in real time, especially now. Like, there's so much groundbreaking stuff that's happening. So the last thing you want to do is have someone that you have been like working with to build be a part of something that's just catastrophic, right? I think this is like the do your own research part that you're doing right now, and then like kind of playing around with it. The experimentation I think is definitely noteworthy. I can definitely say on the more media side of things too, and just entertainment industry as a whole, there's this like it's interesting. I feel like it's a double-edged sword right now. There's a lot of people who are willing to experiment and figure out how this could work in artistry and in creative industries, and then there are a lot of people who are like, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. I'll just get it when it's already big or whatever, when it's more commercial and everybody's using it. So I think that's super dope that you're willing to kind of dabble a little bit, see what works. If it doesn't work, cool, bet. Great. Got to know it a little bit more, and I can move on with continuing to do what I'm doing. I think that's super fire. I think that's super fire. So,
Thank you, thank you.
talk to us about some exciting ventures outside of management and artist development. Like, what else are you excited about? What else are you working on? What's happening? Like, what's going
That
on in
you
the
can
world?
Hmm.
share because Khufu
That you
usually
can
can't share
share.
nothing.
I know they be God, but we get it. We get it. We get it. We just be wanting the tea. That's all.
You don't gotta violate no NDAs on this side
Yeah, no, not
or
on
any
this
trade
line. We know.
secrets.
Nope, not on Hear Us Out. We want to be heard, but not like that. Let's go.
Man. Okay, so there on the management side, everybody has something super insane planned for the rest of like that's locked in already for the rest of this year. I think Tyla is on her way to being one of the biggest stars, not only from the continent, but just in the world. And everyone's going to be very, very, very pleased with everything that we do from the next few months. Like it's ill. Dayla, 35th anniversary of 3 Feet High and Rising. We have some pretty cool other things that are planned there that also can't be shared. Uh, Shout out Nora Aquafina. She is in everything. And I mean, just like check IMDb. There are multiple movies that we will have, or that she will be killing it in. And then Wild East. Hopefully, Hear Us Out's own Lottie will be a part of helping them dominate here in New York. So, outside of the very fruitful and fun management side, probably no projects that I can actually share. However, I can share a idea. I really love what's happening with AI. I think for me, I don't consider myself like a savvy financial investor, but back to like investing in culture. And I had written this article called The Renaissance of the Cultural Investor when I first discovered Web3 and blockchain. And it just got me thinking about like how you invest and the ways that my investing shows up and also conviction. So like during the pandemic, and I promise I'm gonna tie this all up, but during the pandemic, I strongly believed in Tesla and invested crazy heavy like right after the crash. I think it was like March 20th or whatever it was, and like did pretty well from watching that rebound. Similar thing, understanding. I started reading this book on the semiconductor war, did not finish it, not an expert in it, got very bored, but was kind of blown away at how crucial semiconductors are to what we do, learned about the shortage, started paying attention to like, oh, people are doing GPUs for like blockchain and AI. What companies make that? Okay, I'm going to invest in NVIDIA. And then that worked out really, really well. And so right now, my thing is, I know people are gassed on AI and AI is going to go wild, and I believe it. But it almost feels like it's too late. Like, I feel like not that it's too late. Like I think that there's going to be a lot of people that get into this space, and so just your odds of success are dramatically lower. Where I like to go, even if I'm going slower, in a less crowded lane. It's like I like to, and actually, whatever lane you're in is going to be the lane you're meant to be. So let me not even say that. What's meant for you is meant for you. But beyond that, uh, I think AI is going to have its moment. But beyond AI, it's going to be 3D printing now. Telling y'all right now, 3D printing. There is a company working on creating fabrics out of recycled plastics, and right now it's not the comfiest, but it's getting there. I imagine it'll get close to the feel of cotton in the coming years. And you think about how much water is wasted to make one t-shirt, and the way that this can disrupt the entire fashion industry from a textiles manufacturing side, and then all the other construction prefabs that'll be 3D printed, and eventually we'll get to organic materials and all that jazz. I could go on for a while because I'm trying to like keep it very general. But if I did have to choose like anything I'm really excited about outside of artist management, it is 3D printing. I will leave a gem, and I'm going to plant this seed here because I don't think I've shared this idea publicly anywhere. Now, I talked to y'all about the recycled plastics, and imagine the way you recycle your phone or trade in your phone. You could do that, but for clothing. So now you go and buy the latest Yeezy Season 2. And whatever you rock it is dope. Yeezy Season 3 is dropping. They say, yo, bring us your Season 2 item and you'll get 50% off or whatever it is off the next piece. And they can do that because they can literally take that shirt back and recycle the majority of its materials and put it back into production. So not only is it better for the environment, but you can create really cool user behaviors where it's like, okay, now the actual collecting of clothes does have real value beyond reselling. Where to me, it's never been about like making your money from having to tax somebody else who couldn't have access to it. It's like, oh, I can have like modular clothing, and if I trade in half of my season 2 shirt, maybe they can mesh it with season 3. It's like you can just start getting way more creative with the way that you deal with fashion. And like you don't need as many sewers to make complex patterns, and so production times get cut, and so you don't need to have a crazy inventory run or like a crazy minimum run when you want to do something really creative. Let's say you want to have a spiky shoulder t-shirt. That's not really I would say that's not easy to create right now. But if you could 3D print that and make it comfortable, so you lean back and the spikes get pushed in when you lean, and I just think that it's going to open up designers in a whole new world. And that's why I'm paying attention to it, of course, just for dealing on the artist management side. And like, all right, what are some of the brands or ways that we can tap in with brands? Again, a lot of the like every artist that I work with is pretty environmentally conscious. And I'd say that basically everyone is, not in a bad way, but like it is forced in our faces. And it's a little naive to just ignore it. No matter where you fall on the whole climate change debate, it's like something's happening. And it's probably not going to hurt me to do better. So just having that type of mindset and being the neophile that I am, that's a fun space. So anyway, I'm getting off my high horse. Thanks for coming to my TEDx talk, and let me know what you think.
Okay.
Oh, so many things.
So
So
many
many things were
things.
addressed in this right
Remember, I'm
here,
gonna let you go
but
first because I have thoughts.
I have I'm gonna just say this. I'm with you on paying attention to the 3D printing. So outside of my entertainment industry work that I do, I also have a design studio. And I have also been exploring how things can be made and how things can be duplicated, how the process of making things can be a lot smoother, have a little bit more control over how things are designed and just stuff like that. And you're onto something. That's all I'm gonna say. Cause I also too am like, not trying to say too much because it's like, wait a second, but you're on to something for sure. And I think this point that you're making about fashion specifically is top tier. So shout out to that business. Shout out to all of the things. Yeah, yeah, you brought up a lot of very valid points that I think we also just really need to, which goes back to our original conversation earlier of like welcoming the spirit of experimentation. Like it's okay to try something that maybe, seem foreign to you, or you're not quite sure how it's going to work, or the only way you're going to understand it is if you try it. The only way you're going to understand it is if you try to explore it a little bit more, study it, become a student of the game of it, whatever the case may be, so that you can see. And if it works for you, and Lottie, we talk about this all the time, especially on our Web3 episode from season 1. If it works for you, then great. And if it doesn't, great too. At least you tried it, and now you know from an educated place, this does not work for me. From a place of I tried it, it doesn't work for me, it's not my vibe, it doesn't fit my brand, whatever. But yeah, I'm not gonna get on a TED Talk too. Lottie, please go ahead because
Okay,
wow.
first off, the TED Talk is happening. Super excited for when that takes place. I didn't want to be sitting in the crowd, so I could be cheering you on. Secondly, I'm really big on sustainable fashion. I don't know if you've heard of this one company called Unspun, where they use 3D
Yeah.
printing technology to be able to make and yeah. So I'm just glad that people are on this wave too, because it's like, yes, it's just so incredible. People talk about technology for good and being a techno optimist, but actually, like, there are use cases that may not be perfected right now, but in the span of like 3 to 5 years, 3 to 10 years, are going to completely disrupt and revolutionize industries. And given what's happening in our climate with fast fashion, we need this yesterday.
Yep.
Like, it
Yep.
needs to be prioritized.
And see,
So,
I think AI is going to help us get there really fast from that perspective, where I'm not like what do they call it? The P doom or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think anything could happen. So I'll never say nothing's impossible, but I'm just less worried about like AI like effing us up and just thinking like, man, I hope all the really like the engineers that are much smarter than me can do this to accelerate these things that we know should be able to exist, and like we see kind of the pieces of it floating around, where it's like you're mentioning again the problems happening with fast fashion, and how if what we're hinting at here even becomes like 50% as possible as we're describing, it puts a dramatic dent in the lifestyle of those or a dramatic improvement in the lifestyle of those workers, and a dent in that industry, at least in the way that it's run now, right? Where fast fashion may not be a problem. Fast fashion might be a new thing where you're getting emailed out a new design to print at home. And that's how you're buying clothes. And it's, yeah. Not too far out. It's in the near future for sure.
So, as we're closing out, our favorite question: how can the Hear Us Out community, myself, Lottie, how can we be showing up to support you and what you have going on?
Um, I feel supported being on here. So I appreciate y'all for having me. But beyond that, go stream new Tyla, new Wild East Radio. Go stream the Daylight catalog. Go catch Aquafina in every single movie that she's in. And yeah, that's it. Keep my job as a manager alive. Like as long as my artists have careers, I got a chance. Thank you.
don't just stream, y'all. I need you to buy, because you already
That's what
know
I was
Hey,
about
see
to
as
now,
soon
say.
look,
as
look.
the Tyler store. First of all, Tyler stuff be sold out though. Like,
It do.
whatever things be in stock, I
Hey,
be making sure I could grab it.
What is one gem? What is one gem? What is one nugget? What is one piece of info that you would drop to any rising creatives who are looking to forge an artist management, artist development path?
one gem, one gem, one gem. One is tough. You know what? Actually, I got so I used to have this whiteboard, and on this whiteboard, I would write down all of my, I don't know, like, I don't know what you'd want to call it, but it was just like not my sayings, or not just like quotes, I guess to say. It was like my version of like a personal Tumblr, where it's like you go through and you just kind of look at it. I guess it's motivational quotes. I don't know if it's like, it's not really
Like your
motivation.
mantra?
It's more like reminders.
Affirmations,
Yeah,
mantras.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe
Affirmations
closer
like,
to a mantra. Yeah, affirmations like, because I'm not like really repeating them or nothing.
right.
It was more just like, I don't know, like you have a day and you're like, damn, fuck am I doing? And then you go look at these things. Um, so one of my main ones, and I'll try to go through like a couple. I would say don't overthink, and I overthink all the time. So, sometimes it's hard to take your own advice, but when I am like being a dramatic overthinker, I remember like, yo, it's not that deep. And then it's almost like a cascade or I guess a cascading event. It's like, I think don't overthink. And then I'm like, yo, they killed Jesus. And it's like, this is supposed to be somebody, and whether you're religious or not, 'cause I'm not a religious person, which is why I actually really like this example, is like, if you just take the story at face value, this was somebody that was only trying to do good, and there were still people that wanted to see them fail. And once you kind of settle with that like, yo, no matter what you do in the world, there is always going to be somebody out there trying to bring you down. It starts to become easy to ignore those people. And we talked about how tough it is being in music, and like even as an artist manager, like this is not a career you choose, or like, a career for the weak. And not even saying like we're strong, but just like weak minded, or however you want to say that, right? Because I don't like saying I'm better or anything than anyone else. But it's just, you get into this remembering that like no matter what you do, there's always going to be haters. So why not give it your all? Why not constantly show up the best way that you can, the best way that you know how to? Because even though there will be those people that don't like it, there's always going to be that flip side. And there's always going to be those supporters, those people that will follow you, those people that will remember you, even if people try to tear you down. And so, yeah, that would be, I guess, the main thing is like, don't overthink, and just remember that no matter what, there's always going to be someone not in your favor. So don't worry about them. Focus on the people that do care about you. Focus on what you bring to the world and what you can contribute. And like, life is better that way. Like, not that I don't be stressed, but like, I don't know, man, shit be going wrong. I'm just kind of like, all right, on to the next. We got to keep it rolling. Like, we can't, it happened. You got to keep it moving. And I also have the patience to know, like, it's a long life. And a lot of times things that feel really stressful in the moment, 2 weeks later, you're kind of like, why was I even tripping over that? Like,
if even 2 weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's the same day. Sometimes it's in the same hour, honestly, where I realize, wow, relax, it's cool.
You will literally forget about the thing that was stressing you when some other shit happened.
Literally.
So like...
Wait, why was I tripping so hard? I forgot. See?
No, I love that. I love
that's
that.
Not really a simple gem, but that would be the gem. Don't overthink. And I don't like, they kill Jesus. I don't like, because like, I don't like negative connotations, and like, that's like a negative. I don't know what the positive spin on that one is.
No, I like that board. Though, because you're right. It's like, even someone who is the most positive person, or is trying to have the most positive impact in the world, there will be at least one person that will try to spin that into a negative narrative.
Yeah,
you're right.
And so you can't worry about them.
Can't. You can't.
Yeah, it will happen. That's it. And that's like the gift and curse of this industry, is that if like I have yet to see a single artist have success and not have somebody hating on them. And I'm trying to think of like, who's it really hard to hate on? I mean, shit, even Tyla. Like,
bruh. Honestly, I was thinking her as an example, but I was like, maybe not that example.
The industry plan allegations, they need to quit that right now. I'm not doing it.
I'll even let the industry plan shit live, because whatever, like, we don't address that anyway. But like, to attack that girl as a person, it's like, this woman is unbothered. She don't be tweeting nothing. She don't be outside doing nothing crazy. Is super kind. Takes pictures with everyone. Is super sweet. Is like been genuine. Is
always praising like, people in interviews.
Yes.
Always,
every time.
So every gracious. Time.
So gracious.
And it'll
so
kind. People in the
and
comments
you can tell it translates. It doesn't matter.
It's nuts.
So your example is good. It does. Have the neck, but it tracks.
Yeah.
It tracks.
We'll work on it. that if y'all will have me back at a later point in the future in like season 5 or
We're
whatever,
gonna have you back after the TED
I'll
Talk.
clean it. I'll edit it.
Yeah.
After a better gem. No, but for real, thank y'all. This has been like a really ill conversation.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Hear Us Out, the Music and Media Blueprint, brought to you by River and Lottie. If you love what you heard, hit that subscribe button. And of course, make sure to join our Lay Low community for exclusive updates and behind-the-scenes access. Now remember, friends, keep going, stay motivated, and stay inspired. You got this. We believe in you. See you next time.